On air.
Welcome to Predictions 2022, Part 2. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined today by Jamie Resker from Employee Performance Solutions. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Jamie has spent her career in HR. She's a seasoned professional and has spent many, many years focusing on employee performance and performance management. So you're an expert at it?
I'm obsessed with performance management.
Why?
Obsessed. I have had bad experience with performance review myself in the 80s, and I feel like it could be a better system, a better process that employees actually like and don't hate.
And what else are you obsessed with?
Cooking and gardening.
Cooking, my favorite. And you like to make?
Homemade pasta.
Yes.
And I like to eat it.
Yes, me too. Excellent. Well, today we're going to spend some time talking about performance management. And when you think back at the performance management process, we seem to be looking at it in HR every 5 to 10 years. 10 years ago, Adobe decided to scrap their performance management program and implement a continuous performance management program. And it seems like the right thing to do. It seems like, yes, we should be giving employees continuous improvement and messaging all along. So why is it changing all the time? Why do we have to go back every couple of years and take a look at it?
Yeah, it seems like what happens is that, in HR, we put out this new process, we think we've gotten it right, and then complaints pile up, 6 months, a year, and then we're back to the drawing board, either building something from scratch or maybe rejiggering something that we've already put into place.
And we have data on this, right?
We have data on this. Actually, 15.5 had a report, they called it the review of the performance review. And one piece of data, so when HR rolls out their new process, of course, we want it to be good for the employee. We want it to be a good employee experience. And so the data that I thought was interesting was that, does your performance review process, the question, does your performance review process focus on employee growth and development? So 78% of HR people said, yes, it does. 73% of managers said, yes, it does. But only 53% of employees said, the focus is on my growth and my development.
A lot lower. So what does that say for us with regards to the employee experience?
So I think what happens is that, again, in HR, we have good intentions. We want to put something good in place. But I think a lot of times we put our own needs first. I want something that's going to be automated. I want to make sure it syncs up with ADP or Workday. I want it to be easy to use. I want to track ratings. So a lot of times they're putting our own needs first. And what we haven't really done is said, let's put the employee at the center of the experience and build around that.
And we have a lot that's going on in our environment today. We've all just started to put COVID a little bit behind us in terms of coming back to work. There's a big environmental change that people are focusing on today. And employees work from home, employees came back to work, some employees are still working remotely, employees who are in jobs that are required for them to go into the work environment are having to change the way they do their work today anyway. So big environmental changes within the workplace. Mm-hmm. And so now, more than ever, we should be looking at the performance review process. So what are you seeing that's working today?
So, like you said at the beginning, this is 10 years ago, Adobe put in place what we call continuous performance management now. So this is nothing new for HR. We all know about it. But the question is, and especially nowadays, it does not make sense to get here and talk about performance 12 months ago. So managers are no longer looking over people's shoulders when they're working. Not that was happening all the time before, but so many people are working remotely. Nobody's the same as they were 2 years ago. So the focus should really be on creating the right employee experience, putting the employee at the center, having employees kind of set the agenda for what they want to talk about with their managers so that they walk away from the conversation saying, I know what I'm doing well, that I should keep doing, and I know what the one thing is I should be focused on right now, as well as some feedback for their manager about the support that's appreciated and the support that they would like to see for future. So it should really be focused on what's working now and moving ahead now and moving ahead. This kind of a cadence rather than let's get here and talk about what happened 12 months ago. Can you remember what you did last weekend?
No,
Okay.
actually not.
Let's
Oh, yes, I went skiing.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Took me a minute or so. What are you seeing that are the three most important things that managers should focus on when they're looking at this change in performance management?
So I think, HR, we do have a point. We still want to have a way to assess and measure performance. We need to track where people are, where we see them going. So I see that is still something, but I want to share something in a minute that's still a little bit different than ratings. And also, again, making sure that, the focus is on dialogue, conversations. It's not filling out a form. It's also not using an app and giving somebody, a high five or 5 stars. It's great for your Uber driver or your whatever DoorDash person, but that's not a way to interact with people.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And so those are the three things that we hope people in the audience can take away today, that this is something that's doable and manageable and be able to implement within your organization.
Yeah.
I just want to remind folks that we are also joined by people around the world today. And thank you for all of you who are participating around the world. Folks are joined into this program through LinkedIn Live, through Facebook, and through YouTube. So I appreciate everybody's participation. I think we're having a conversation about tossing out the performance review process today, or tossing out the annual paper-based process. And I think we need to look at something that needs to work and that works better. And so we also have to worry about the ratings. So performance reviews will always were and have been tied to ratings. So how do we still assess people and get ratings for them?
Yeah, I think this is the big sticking point for most HR people. If I get rid of annual performance reviews, then how am I going to do the ratings? And of course, we say ratings a lot of times will influence the pay decision. So that's like a sticking point for a lot of people. So I'm going to show you this really simple model that I developed probably 20 years ago. I call the employee performance continuum. I know you probably can't see this, but it's 4 squares. And on the vertical here, we want to define what is performance. It's work results, what is the person getting done, and it's also their observed behavior or their actions. So, anybody who's above this mid-level line here with work results, they're on target, the work is getting done. Below the mid-level line, they're new to the job, they're growing, but they're right where they should be, given how long they've been in the job, or they are they're trending, or maybe their work results are off target. And then observed behavior, right of center, on target, expected behaviors, left of center, behaviors that you can see, their actions that are having some sort of negative impact. The further left you go, the more off target somebody's behaviors are, the higher the negative impact. So the whole point is to say, you want to be doing things, whatever those activities are, that are driving people to this top right. On target work results, on target behavior. But you don't want to just put people in a box, even though I just have a box here. You want to say, where do I see this person right now? You want to do an analysis. If somebody's performance is off in some way, what is the issue? And then what you want to do is flip that around to describe exactly the opposite. So what is it that you need the person to do to go from here to there? And in your conversations, I know we're going to get to this, but when you think about what conversations are the right conversations, you don't want just to tell people to talk more. You want to say, you want to have some sort of framework. So I have something, I call it the 10-minute questions conversation.
Okay.
So the employee will ask, what's one thing I'm doing well that I should keep doing? And they'll also ask a question under the category of what's next. And there's like 30 different questions they can choose from. But maybe they ask, so what's one thing I could do to be more effective in my role? What should I focus on? And if their performance is off in some way, that's a perfect opportunity for the manager to say, oh, one of the things I'd like to see you work on is, so instead of telling the person what they've done wrong in the past, we can't go backwards, we're starting from today. The focus is on what's working now and moving ahead.
So the biggest concern that I think folks in the audience are going to be saying when they're listening to this is, how are my managers going to be able to have this conversation? How are my employees going to be able to have this conversation with their manager? Right. This just seems so daunting and so overwhelming. What do you suggest?
So I think if anybody who's been in HR, this is the thing that we hear over and over. We say it. If you're a manager, you've heard it. Give feedback often and early. No surprises. I think we know that saying that doesn't make it come true, because we've all had the experience where the manager comes in, this person's not working out, they need to be on an exit plan, and we ask, so when's the last time you had a conversation with the person about this issue? They hadn't had the conversation. It's not in the performance review, because we also say don't put new information into the performance review. So we really have to realize that most managers, is actually, there's another study that was done by Deloitte that said just about 6% of managers are skilled at having candid conversations about performance. And I used to be irritated with managers who didn't have the conversations and wanted me to put them on an exit plan or an improvement plan. And I would say, no, you need to go back and have the conversation. Well, guess what happened? I then started managing people in my last HR job. So it was the first time I had to take my own advice, and guess who was not giving feedback often and early? So
I learned hands-on.
I learned hands-on, and so I was not in the 6% of managers who are skilled at having these conversations. So I would say that 94% of managers need some sort of training on what do you say, how do you frame the right conversation, and also employee training. So it's no longer just training managers on here's how you fill out the form. It's having employees kind of take charge and create their own conversations, ask the right questions, but really be much more involved in their performance and their development.
And I think the last most important thing, as we check off the box for the HR folks, is to have a really simple process.
Right.
Because over the years, I think you're saying it's just gotten complicated.
It's gotten complicated. So I have a process, I call it the 10-minute questions conversation. It's 5 or 10 minutes to prepare. It's about 10 minutes to ask and answer the questions. And people leave from that meeting saying, that was a great conversation. I've got everything that I need to be successful in my role, my career right now.
And I think that's what we want. I think that's what employees are asking for today. They're asking for a better experience. They've come back from an environment that has been extremely challenging. And this is a way that managers, leaders of the organization can help with retention, because if you're having a good conversation and the employees having a good experience, you would rather them have that conversation with you rather than a recruiter.
Right. You don't want people more comfortable talking to a recruiter than their own manager about their career and development. And I think that's what we get sidelined all the time.
Exactly.
Let's do an exit interview, or let's do stay interviews. Those conversations should be ongoing, so you really know where somebody is in their career, what they want to do next. Maybe you can help them before they leave.
Also, we have a generational shift. We have a lot of the baby boomers that are still working in the workforce, and even the generation before the baby boomers. And so they are used to a management style and a review style that's very different than those folks that are joining the workforce out of college and maybe been in the workforce for the last 10 years, who are used to continuous feedback and continuous conversation from their family members or from their educational experience. So they're looking for that. I feel like the work environment is really ready for this change, to take a look at the performance review process, toss it out, and consider a continuous improvement management process. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us around the world. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this. We are not ending the conversation today, just learning from our own messages today. So please put your messages in the chat. We will absolutely keep it open for a little bit. And if you would like to continue the conversation, you can always feel free to message us through social media or from our website. We would love to hear you. And since we didn't have any time to answer the questions, we will definitely take an active step to put these questions together, answer them, and share them with everyone through our website and our social media portals. So thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.
Bye.